Yeah, I'm just going to wait just a few minutes to see, let people have a chance to arrive. Hope everybody's doing well. Just a reminder for everyone to stay safe out there. I know some restrictions are being lifted, but it's still a good idea to stay safe. If you can stay home, but not everybody can. So wash your hands and cover your face. And, just be safe. Alrighty. Nobody's here. It's too pretty outside. We should just turn the camera on the sunshine outside and show how pretty it is out there. I like that they were able to move all of their plants into the window. Here. Look how gorgeous all the plants in the window are. Look at all these people out there. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started. All right. We'll go ahead and get started. So we'll save this video in the event page so that you can come back and look at it later. So anyway, my show has been up since the beginning of March, and shortly after the opening, it was probably about a week, maybe a week and a half before we realized that things were going to have to close down. And it was a really, really strange thing to have happen, especially since the show was an opening for this piece in particular. The rest of the work in the show has been up and seen at other places before, at other shows. But this piece was the unveiling for this that took exactly to the day 9 months to create. And I finished it on the very day of the opening, so I haven't got to spend much time with this completed piece. If you want to come a little bit closer and maybe just kind of show some detail, because that's one of the things people like to be able to see is detail. It's kind of dark on this wall right now, and we're competing with a lot of sunshine that's coming in, so it's making the camera confused. So this is a knotted sculptural tapestry, and each one of these little places that you see on here, these little tiny things, each one of those is a single knot, and that is how the entire thing is created, is knot by knot. Teeny tiny little knots too. Detail up in here. All right, and then right here, a little bit here. It's a very time-consuming process, but extremely enjoyable and meditative, unless you're putting in 13-hour days towards the deadline of your show to get it done. Then it's a little exhausting, but for the most part, when you work 4 or 5 hours a day, it's extremely enjoyable. Okay, so we're going to move down here. As far as the title of this, I do go into that a little bit in my artist statement, but basically, Discordant Blues, I had chosen these 3 colors, or these 3 different yarns that were these different variations of blue, and I don't know, I just had this idea of trying to create some harmony between these colors that I normally wouldn't put together and wouldn't normally enjoy side by side, and trying to create some sort of tension in that, and also some underlying just personal things. The word blues is used for depression, and so it was a little bit of that on a personal level as well. So just come down this way, and we'll just try to fit in here. Dos Gatos is taking advantage of this time to do some cleaning up and fixing, so we're just kind of squeezing in and around the chairs and tables that are moved around a little bit, so we can get a little closer to the work, but we also can't get too far away either. We're kind of hemmed in right here. So this is called Algae Bloom, and it is, again, all of these pieces are all the exact same technique, just a double half hitch over and over and over again. Most pieces I do start in the center with a circle, There isn't any particular deep meaning behind that, except that I do find circles to be meditative. But it is just a technique that I learned years ago that got me very excited, and I was originally doing some basket making, knotted basket making, not coiled basket, and I was using this technique to do that, and that's kind of how these evolved, was from learning that. So I guess that makes sense that that would be my jumping off place. And these tendrils are also a very prominent feature in a lot of my pieces as well. And people will sometimes ask me, because they are pretty stiff, especially now. My earlier pieces are a little more flimsy because they're smaller and they don't contain quite as many threads, and also they don't have quite as much cotton, and cotton is a lot stiffer. But people will ask me if there's an armature inside that's creating the shape, but there is no armature. There's only one piece in the entire show that has armature in it, and that was an experiment, and we'll talk about that when I get to it. But so yeah, there's no armature. Everything inside of all of these that creates the shape is just strings that are inside and knotted around. And to go smaller, I pull the strings out and knot, and pull the strings out and knot. And if you follow me on Instagram or my Facebook page, I do have, and also my YouTube, I do have several demo videos if anyone's interested in actually watching the process. Some of the videos are kind of long, but people have said they enjoy that, and it's kind of necessary for a very time-consuming process for a demo to be long. There's no quick way to show you how to do it. But you can look those up, and I can put a link into all of those in the event page. Okay, so this piece is actually one of the first knotted tapestries that I did like this. And I was really just completely, there was like no sketch, no idea ahead of time. I just, it was just very free form, very organic. So this was in 2015 and 2016. And I started it in one house and finished it in another house because we'd moved during that time. And again, if you want to look a little closer, show some of the detail, it's all the same technique. One of the things I like to do when I have my artwork at home, which I haven't had for 2 months, which is kind of weird, so my walls are kind of empty and I don't have anything to look at for reference while I'm working on my current new piece, but I always like to get up really close and find, especially on my earlier experimental pieces, because there's some really strange things going on that I'm not even sure if I would know how to replicate. But I like to study it and try to see what was I doing. But this was definitely a much more free-flowing, just not holding myself to any type of rules or visual concepts like I have in my later pieces, to where I try to make them a little more organized and cohesive, and some of the time, well, a lot more times lately, going from a sketch. So yeah, that's something that I'm missing right now, is not having these to really look at. I have pictures, but it's not quite the same. All right, we're going to squeeze around this way. We probably don't need to get up in here too much with this one. We might not. We pulled down the screen to block some of the sun. This is actually the very first piece that I did, and it's got a lot of sun on it, so I don't know if you're going to be able to get a good picture, but if you get close up, you might be able to see. So this is the very first piece I did, and as you can see, it's framed a little different, and I really love that piece, and I will probably never part with it. It is definitely the most free-form, organic one, the first two pieces. Alrighty, so try not to hit you with this. If you want to come this way. Okay. I feel short next to this. Is the lighting okay? Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. So this piece is called Exergy. I haven't really been going into all of the names of any of these, but I don't know. This is all off the top of my head. This piece took, I would say, probably about 9 or 10 months to make. this was another piece that was definitely done mostly from a sketch, and I was working with some concepts of symmetry and also trying out some new techniques and new ideas in here, where as a lot of the times I was doing these tendrils that kind of go out and out and out and out and out until they get smaller, and basically that's just until the strings run out, you know, or until I feel satisfied with it. But down here I was trying something new to see how I could get them to come out in the middle of the tapestry as opposed to it just being the end, which is much easier. So that was really fun. And this was really exciting. I enjoyed making this section so much. So much so that the piece that I'm currently working on is basically all this technique. This, what I've come to call directional crosshatch knotting. So if you follow the progress of my latest piece, you will see that that is what it is comprised of. And it will have elements like this as well, this here. It has elements like this in it as well, but it is mostly the cross-hatching. And so yeah, if anybody has any questions while we're doing this, I'm mostly nervous talking. And okay, let's see. Hi everybody. Hi Dad, hi Jocelyn, hi Sadie, hi Dick. I think that's all I can see right now on the screen. My dad said, love the close-ups. Ah, yes, I do too. I've had people comment on that. They've said before that they like that when I share images of works in progress or completed pieces, that I always do close-up images of the work, because really when you're looking at the whole piece from a distance, you can't really get all of that detail. So I like to share the detail, because this work is about the details, because every tiny little piece is so time consuming that I'm intimately involved with all the minute little details. Alrighty, so just let me know if anybody asks anything. Yeah. Okay. So here we are. This piece is called Root. You'll see me like picking up the pieces as I'm going by. I'll see like little pieces of fuzz that I didn't get before. Okay, so this is Root. This was another piece that took a while. I worked on this for probably over a year, but it wasn't like consistently. I put it down for a while. This is the piece I was saying earlier that is the only piece that has an armature in it, which is this. Let's see, these 4 pieces here. And I had this idea that I wanted to do a contemporary version of the 70s style, and not even 70s anymore, it's retro. Everybody is doing the macrame hangings again, and a lot of them start out with a dowel bar and then do a lot of the knotting to make a really cool wall hanging. And I was thinking of what it would be like to do wrappings and knotting around the dowel idea, but I wanted it to be a specific shape that reflected some of the shapes that happen in the knotting. And so I created these. I made like a homemade clay and shaped them and painted them and then put them in there. And I have to say I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't enjoy the process of trying to knot around these weird shapes, because especially up on the bumpier parts, the strings and yarn wanted to kind of like slide down, and so I had to constantly be compensating for that and holding things really tight. And yeah, so I put it down for a while because I got frustrated. But then once I started working on it again, and really, it's when I really started exploring these types of sections that you'll see more of in that piece that we just showed, and then other pieces. That's where this particular working really, I was really able to explore it, and I got really excited about it. And so I ended up being happy with it, even though I had to put it down from pure frustration for a little while. I think there might be a couple of people on here who go to one of our gatherings that we had to cancel this spring, that actually would be starting this week. But at one of the gatherings back in either 2016 or 2017, I brought this piece there for our show and tell. And I think when I showed it to everybody during the show and tell night, I think I was only about this far. So if anybody was there for that, this is how it turned out.
Dick wants to know, do you ever work on a piece while people watch?
Yes. I have brought work to a show that I had last year at another gallery, and I would come down 2 days a week to sit at the gallery in case people came by, and I brought the piece that is, debuted, Discordant Blues. I brought that piece, and that's when I actually started on this. And so I worked on that for people to come and watch. And I've been downtown at different places, and where I've had to be for a little while and will need something to bring with me, and I'll have something to work on. So, and I've done live streams just in my studio as well, working. So yeah, but I would love to. I always like working and having people be able to watch and ask questions, because it's a lot easier to explain while you're doing it than after the fact, because so much of the work is not so much hidden, but it's kind of hidden. But it's easier to explain when you're actually doing it. How are we doing on time? Good enough?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is one of the older pieces that I was talking about. It's definitely much smaller. It was before it's not small compared to the big one first piece that I showed, but when I was starting to get, like I said, a little more organized and not just letting it sprawl out of control, I was trying to rein it in, and of course now I'm unreining things in. So this piece is called Erupt. It has some yarn in there that I dyed myself. Here and here. Yeah, just a little bit of more of the same. It's like each piece is the same, but different. I think the most different pieces were like Algae Bloom, the circular one that's over there. And there was another circular one that I did that was at my last show that actually sold before it was even finished. And so I was able to have it for my show, and then as soon as my show was down, I had to send it away. And that's one of my favorite pieces. But it's, circular, and that one is circular, and all the others are kind of like more organic.
Dick has another question.
Yes.
I may have missed this, but is there someone's work that your work is inspired by?
I don't think so. I look at a lot of knotting work that is more traditional. I love Wendy Chen's work, which is all about the actual knot, like big, like really showing the individual knots. She did a year of knots, and I find that inspiring, not aesthetically or stylistically, but just in that the appreciation of the knot and what can be done with it, and the knot as a form of art. And mine doesn't really show off the knot as a form of art, but it is made up of the knot solely. And so that is an inspiration to me. Sheila Hicks, fiber artist, love her work. She does these big pieces and all different types of work that is colorful and bold and ropey, and you can't really say, oh, this is what it looks like, because it's so different. All of the work is so different. But yeah, I really like to look at just macrame knotting, even if it isn't exactly like what I'm doing. I just really love knots, and seeing, I will sit and watch even just somebody making like friendship bracelets or the traditional wall hangings just because I enjoy watching the process and I enjoy doing the process. And even though they look completely different, the feeling of it to me is the same, if that makes any sense. But I'm not really good with names off the top of my head. If I'm not prepared, I would have to have them written down. Did I talk about this piece already?
Nope.
No. Okay. This piece is called Want. This is absolutely my favorite piece. Not counting the one I just finished, but I really love this piece, and it was done during a time when I was really struggling with that feeling that you have inside to have not so much a need for something, but a want. And whether it's a small thing or a big thing, the feeling of wanting is so specific and individual, but it's not really a thing that I can like say, oh, this is what it means, but that's just me saying that's where the title comes from, because that is what was going on in my life during the time that I was making this. So a lot of the pieces are like that. It will reflect a little bit in the title, and that usually comes after the fact, where I will associate my own experiences during that long time, extended period of time that I'm working on a single piece, that will sort of become, for me, the meaning of that piece, because they're not really representational. They don't, have any like, oh, this is this, or this represents a whatever. I don't really work that way. I work very purely design and color, and not really with any intention of imbuing it with any kind of like deep symbolism or significance in the design part, but it sort of comes after the fact, as it's, I don't know, when you work with something for so long, it's like a birthing process. So.
Jocelyn wants to know, are there favorite fibers of yours or colors you gravitate towards?
Yes, turquoisey colors and red, and cotton. I really, really love working with cotton. For a long time, I was really obsessed with using this natural wool right here as what I call my background color. Like, each of the pieces will have basically like a main sort of background color, and then everything else are the colors that I choose to go as the accent in the design. And so for a very long time, that's really all I wanted, was to use this sort of natural. And now I'm more to where I just really want to use this type of, for one thing, the cotton is so much stiffer, and it creates these really beautiful ropey designs that I'm really, really drawn to. That is like, in any of the pieces, when I can get this really super ropey situation going on, I'm really, really happy. So I'm really into the white cotton lately. But definitely, yeah, it's colors, turquoise, red. Let's see, I'm gonna get a drink while you're showing that. We've just got a few more pieces I'm gonna talk about, and then we'll be done. But please, even though I'm rambling, please feel free to post questions if you have them, and Scotty will let me know. Scotty's my cameraman, my husband, in case y'all don't know. Okay, so here we are. This lovely piece. This was created for the Artistic Alphabet Project of Northeast Tennessee, which was started by Art Brown, who is a local artist and an instructor. Melody?
Assistant professor.
Assistant professor now, okay. And he's doing this project, which hopefully we will come together, I think, sometime at the end of this year, and we're going to have an actual show of all types of different artists and medium, but I chose the letter J because it just happens to be one of my favorite letters. Are you having a hard time because of the chairs?
It's
okay.
fine.
You don't have to stay far away. You can scooch up. So anyway, this piece was for that. Everybody just was doing a different letter, and this was interesting in that my main focus as far as like design and everything was in the J. And I do have a sketch for this, and it's pretty happy with how well it sticks to the sketch. But I had never really thought about doing what would be considered just a background that is also part of the art, but I wanted it to be the background and not necessarily be, really elaborate and colorful to where this would have to compete too much with that. So I wanted it to stand out a little bit. So that was a little different, doing something like that and trying to just keep it going until I had a nice little background for that. So there's some really cool details in this. This one has a lot of acrylic in it, which I don't use a ton of unless there's like a really cool acrylic, variegated acrylic that I could find that I want to use. But the background has a lot of I was grabbing balls of black yarn around the house. I think I even had to go out and get some. I think that was the last time I actually bought any yarn.
Showing up green.
Yeah, there are different pictures and in actual life, as you can see here, where the color black will start to show some of the dyes, I guess, that create the black. And depending on the yarn, yeah, I noticed that when I was working on it. I was like, well, that kind of looks green when I look at it a certain way, but it's not. It's black. Okay, is it just? I think it. Thank you, Nicole. Thanks, Kim. I think it's interesting when someone says they enjoy hearing me talk, because I think most people say this though, when they hear their voice in like a recording, they cringe. Yeah, I do that a lot. I cringe quite a bit. I feel like my voice is deeper than I think it is. But in my demo videos where I just ramble and talk and not. Sometimes I'll have music playing and people have told me I need to turn it down so they can hear me talk, and I'm like, why do you want to hear me talk? But I'll just ramble just like I'm doing now, and my friend Heather said she finds it very soothing, so that's nice. My friend Heather, who actually owns 2 pieces in this show. Want, which is my favorite one, she purchased that for this show, and she has an older piece over here that we're coming to. So that's pretty cool to be able to put on a tag that it is borrowed from a collection. It makes me feel fancy. This is Unfurl. Now this is 2015. I didn't realize this was that long ago. Time has really gone by fast the last 5 years.
Except for 2020.
Except for 2020, it's just kind of amorphous. So yeah, this piece was around the time when I had kind of run out of that natural background color that I was talking about before, and so I was trying to find all these different ones, and in this one the same. I was trying to find something to replace that, and so I found this gray, and for the longest time I wasn't super happy with it, and I was just and one day I turned it this direction, and I was like, that's it. So it's kind of interesting that when it was this way or that way, I didn't connect with it, and I wasn't happy with it, and I felt like it was too dark and that it was hard to see the colors, and it's not, but I don't know why I thought that. But once I found the direction that it needed to go, I was much happier. I just wanted to show anything close up of that. What are you doing? Are you still showing detail? Come on. Come on. Okay. So, it is borrowed from the collection of my and again, this is where I was trying background, and then I decided to just use some really bright colors and some contrasts, which was a little bit different. This is an early piece also. My brain is feeling like that was not that long ago, but I don't know, I feel like that one was finished later than 2017, but it says 2015. I could be wrong. So there's another piece that's similar to this and similar to the other one that has the lighter tan, the natural wool. That was sold in a show in Cape Cod this past fall. I do not have that. I always considered it to kind of go with these smaller pieces, but it used to be my favorite until that other one. What do we have here?
It says Signal Week.
Signal Week. Uh-oh. Maybe it's where we're standing because we are kind of in a odd place. Well, hopefully it's recording. If anybody else, if it like stops or it goes glitchy or something, I don't know. Somebody kind of let us know. We just have two more pieces and I don't have a whole lot to say about them, simply because they are not my favorites. These are older pieces, but not really. This one was something I was playing with. One of my camp mentors for our summer camp had given me a bunch of this rug yarn, and I was working with it, and when I ran out of the black, I just decided to just finish it as it was, and it wasn't exactly where I wanted it to be. I was experimenting with super three-dimensional sticky outy things, and I wasn't quite fully happy with the witch's hat that happened right there, but at the same time I kind of like it. Sometimes I look at it and I see a fish. So this is just rainbow orbit, because it's even though I see a fish, I think of it as something very space, like, you know, if Star Trek Voyager was like, you know, decked out for Gay Pride Week. So it's that. I mean, I do really like it, but at the same time, I don't know, I'm not sure. I think it's because it has like these bigger sections, which this one has as well, like these bigger, thick sections that don't necessarily resonate with the look and feel of the work that I'm really happy with. This is super old. This is another one that's like 5 years old. It says. And this is like all acrylic. And this one actually just started out as trying to work through an idea. And so I was trying to see, this is like so big and so thick. I wanted to see if I could create bigger ropey sections than just all these little tiny ones. And the buildup of the yarn that's inside of it and everything, and it's a love-hate thing. It's like I really love it and it's really cool, but at the same time, when I pull back and I look at it, I'm like, I need not so much stripiness, and I need not so much big and little, and so I'm my worst critic, I guess. But so you can look at that. But it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot, and that to me is the most important part, because every single consecutive piece that I work on, I use what I learned from the last piece, whether I know that I'm doing it consciously or not. So Yeah, I think that everybody does that. Artists, musicians, chefs, people living life. You know, it's just, that's what you do. You build on each experience. And some experiences that you don't like that much can still be really valuable and important in your life. I don't know where I'm going there. But so I don't really have anything else to talk about. If anybody has any questions, I will say that it has been really, really surreal to have my work up in an empty space. For one, I really, really love empty spaces and that have that abandoned look to them, and that's kind of how everything looks the last couple of months. But having my work inserted into that space was kind of cool, but kind of sad at the same time. So yeah, I was really, really excited about having this show up, and then it was shut down. And well, not the show. The police came in and shut my show down. No, everything was shut down. So
Your dad wants to know, how often do you change direction while working?
Change direction, like come here. Okay, let's see if I can figure out what it means. When you say direction, you don't necessarily, do you mean like change the direction of the idea or actual physical direction? Like, for example, like in here, the knots are going this direction, and the strings that are coming from the knots that were going this direction are incorporated inside these knots. So I'm always going back and forth in direction. And I guess that's why I'm currently, the piece I'm working on right now is focusing on that directional knotting, which is not just doing a section where it's all going in the same direction with color and using the variegation and different colors of yarn to create a pattern, using the directional knots to create a pattern. Ideas. I don't think I change direction in ideas during a piece, especially if I'm working from a sketch. I usually try to stick really close to that idea. I think, I don't know, as far as changing direction with ideas, like I said earlier, the two circular pieces that I did like that are just really straightforward, prominent, middle of the road, you know, this is a circle, whereas everything else is kind of like, you know, sprawls out, and some people call them creatures. Those, I think, were the only times that I really kind of like went in a different direction. It was super controlled and symmetrical, and usually I don't usually do that. But I did it twice, so I have thought about doing another circular piece, but for the most part I really haven't come back around to any ideas that I wanted to do, because it feels to me like they would just all be the same. But that piece is super different than the other one, so if you see them side by side, they're both circular and similar in size, but when you really, you know, go in and look at them, they're very, very different. But
what is the name of the piece you are standing in front of?
This one? This is Erupt.
And your dad wants to know, what determines the size?
Nothing used to. Like with these earlier pieces, I kind of just worked until I felt like it was done. And at the time, because the process was so new to me and I was still learning it, to me, that this took like a month to do seemed mind-blowing to me at the time. And I was like, oh, it's probably done now. I've been working on it for a month, and now I know that if I sketch something out and I see it on a wall and I get an idea of perspective of how big I think I want that to be. This piece over here that is not within a frame, which is kind of a new direction that I'm going in, is pieces that are just directly mounted on the wall. So they are obviously going to want to be larger because a little tiny piece mounted on the wall it doesn't have the presence that I want it to have. But I'm definitely doing pieces that are larger now and giving myself a certain amount of time, whereas before I didn't really think about, oh, how long is this going to take, or how long, usually I just have like a deadline that I was working towards. But right now, the piece I'm working on, I'm giving myself a year to finish it, and it's going to be probably about 4.5 feet by maybe like 2 feet, 2.5 feet when it's done. And I'm really excited about that piece because it's coming along really great. And yeah, that piece actually, even though it is more what I would consider more, hey, we are not competing with the sun anymore. It's not, it's similar to the pieces that are more sprawling, as opposed to like this piece here that is more controlled and symmetrical, or that piece that is just kind of up and down. This piece is actually from a sketch over here. That was from a sketch, and I was pretty happy with how close we stuck to that. So I guess I will come back over here and finish where we started with this. I don't know, maybe people can see it a little bit better now that it's not a bunch of sunshine. I really love this piece, and I've missed it. I've missed having it around. Like I said, I only finished it the day of my opening, so I had to hang it that day and say goodbye to it for 2 months. So I think, I don't know, this section here, this here, if you'll look at these here, this right here is very much this huge section of all of this cross-hatch directional knotting is what really has inspired the piece that I'm working on right now, which is going to be all of that. And you can see on my Facebook page as well as my Instagram the latest work in progress picture that's just a tiny little corner of it, but it's gonna be like this except big. So it's kind of like I'm taking this section that I really love working on and exploding it. So it won't have circles, and it won't have a bunch of tendrils or, big ropey sections in the middle. It's just going to be like this, sort of. But that's the inspiration for it anyway. I'm really thirsty, and I feel like I've rambled, and I hope that you all enjoyed being here with me and looking at my art and listening to me talk about it. And I hope that you all will join me on Instagram. I'm probably going to be doing a live stream on Instagram pretty soon that will have just me in my studio, standing there, making knots, rambling. I'll try not to make the music too loud. So I will post links to my Instagram and my Facebook page so that you can go check out work there, and you can look at the pictures and see them a little closer up, and watch some of my old demo videos for people who are really curious. That seems to be the main thing, is people are super curious of how do you do that? So you can find out. And I guess that's it. Thank you all for joining me here tonight, and happy First Friday. Can't let the spirit of First Friday die. We gotta keep it going in our town. I know a lot of towns have First Fridays as well, or First Thursdays or whatever, but keep it alive in any way we can that's safe, and you all be safe. Wash your hands. Thank you for being here. That's it. Did you end it?
Not yet.
Oh no. Bye everybody.